Well, hello, campers. How are you? Welcome back to our very first Thursday night live. And tonight, I am super pumped. I'll tell you why in a moment. Caroline Murphy-Bennis, Lisa Jayne. How are you both? Caroline?
Wonderful. Really lovely to be here with you all from Ireland, all the way from Ireland.
And I'm sensational, Scott, and I'm very happy to be here with the two of you. I'm so looking forward to this conversation.
Likewise. And I'm going to introduce you both a little bit different to what you may be used to. I love what I do. I love connecting with people. I love having big discussions about life. And both of you are in my heart for that. So the opportunity tonight to sit and listen and grow and see how you've connected to create an abundance for others, I can't wait to share that with our listeners tonight, because what you're doing in this current time of creating connection between mothers and daughters, diamond mothering, I can't wait to dive into and work through. So rather than me go between you two, I'm going to ask you to share with us, firstly, what is diamond mothering? Caroline?
Diamond mothering is starting to mother from your authentic self. So it's getting connected to, it's a process of connecting to your own essence and then to mother from that deep center. So where you are at home in yourself, and then to connect authentically to your daughter. And, it creates this unique diamond design where, we all know that, I suppose, life is built on relationships. The whole of our existence is built on the quality of our life is built on the quality of our relationships. So when we invest our time and use love as our main commodity, then we really can live a rich and fulfilled life. And that has many different facets, like the diamond. So, the facets that we have, with our children, with our parents, with our siblings, with our partners, that all kind of helps us shine, or it dulls us down. So when we invest time in looking within and to clear that, to polish and design the diamond so that it can shine into its truth, it's only going to be beneficial for ourselves, but everybody around us and our wider community, because then we can unlock all our talents and all the beauty that we have within. And when we feel, myself and Lisa have kind of come together, that we feel that, the mother-daughter dynamic is really an untapped resource in the world, because when we can really kind of look into, and deconstruct really women and get women to connect with their feminine force, which is the force of life itself within us that's working through us. And when we connect to our daughters, that can be unlocked in them, and then it can bring, women and young girls to the world that are kind of feminine leaders, and feminine in their strength, as in they're bringing their beauty and their softness forward in a strong way, not to be like a man, and pretending, it's not women's empowerment, like to take on the role of being, masculine in the world, be feminine in the world, but in a strong way, and that we see life in a holistic way, and that we really want to kind of start to bring that to moms and help them kind of deconstruct that from within. So it's like the diamond in the rough, and then you can connect to creating that beautiful relationship with your daughter that's only going to help you kind of, illuminate the world, and your daughter's world and the world at large.
That sounds so good. I want to be a part of that. How can I be part of it? It's like, you did such a great job. And that's so true. Like, so amazing. And I mean, I can't really add to what Carolyn said, because it was just so complete. Only to say that both Carolyn and I really feel the weight that's on mothers these days. The culture as it is really frightening for mums. And most mums now have done a lot of research, and we've read a lot of books, and we've talked to a lot of people, but it's not about information anymore. And you've probably noticed, if you're a mum yourself, it's like, and I know you probably noticed, Scott, even though you're not a mum, but I'm sure you've got lots of mum in you, is that all that information can only take us so far against the cultural influences that we have. We really need to tap into this. I want to call it a superpower because it really is, but to be honest, it is just our natural way. It is the creative force within us. It's tapping into the intuition. It's tapping into the feminine force within us. And once we can do that and stand in that center, we have solutions. And it's incredibly practical. It's not woo-woo or airy-fairy. Like, this is very practical, grounded. This is the shit I do every day to stay in my feminine force, so that when my daughter has an emotional emergency, I know what to do. I know how to show up for her so that she can see me actually own my emotional world, and she can see me in my feminine power. So I'm modeling for her all the time what it looks like to move myself back into my feminine power. And when you're looking at teenagers, especially out there, they're looking for power everywhere. They're looking for power in their looks. They're looking for power in sex. They're looking for power in their devices. They're looking for power every freaking where. And nowhere is going to give them what they're really looking for apart from the feminine force inside of them. And that, I believe, is a solution that, they need. They need it. They really need mothers to be able to show them that place in them.
Oh, so I'm just sitting here smiling because it's a passion of mine to lead by example. And I won't ask anybody, especially my son, to do anything that I won't do myself. So focusing on the mums to strengthen them in order to give their daughters a better role model, I think is phenomenal. We hear a lot about rites of passage for boys now. It's becoming a big focus, giving the boys a rites of passage. So is this a similar sort of thing for women and girls?
Yeah, and we just coined the phrase last night on our live. We do weekly lives on YouTube, and we were talking about supermodeling, instead of
Yes,
because we were talking about body image for women and for girls and how we can have to undo that. And it was like the new supermodel is in not being moving out of perfectionism into realizing that we're not perfect and being okay with that. And being okay with ourselves as we are here and now, and being okay with our daughters as they are here and now, that we're a work in progress. And for them to see us kind of fall down and get back up again, fall down, get back up again, and just to see it, for them to see us try, I think that's the most powerful thing, just to try and to fail and to try again and to fail and to try again and fail. But, in that process, it's step by step by step. You are kind of unveiling yourself, unboxing yourself from that kind of small, kind of tight, version or identity that you created of yourself, that you can kind of unbox yourself into your truth. And then it kind of unlocks something in you that you start to find your purpose and you start to find your destiny, and things become much more clear, and you become a lot more, I suppose, your executive functioning, increases, as in you can bring your talents to the world in a very functional way. And that's why I love creativity. I absolutely adore creativity, and it's just the spice of life. So it unlocks that in you, and that you can have the strength and the power in yourself to bring your talents to the world, and to love and action, that when you see something that really breaks your heart in the world, that you can go and do something about it. You have that power.
Yeah,
I love that.
And
sorry, Calissa.
No, I was just going to reiterate what you were saying, like the rites of passage, and bring it back to ritual, because we certainly need rituals, I believe, and this is the ritual of coming home to the self. And if the mother is always embodying this ritual of coming home to yourself, and one of the things that we did talk about in the body image session, because I wrote down some of the quotes from that, like they were absolute gems, like real gems. One of them was confidence, and true confidence is having intuitive solutions. And intuitive solutions are generally the most effective solutions, because they're solutions that arrive when you're in your power. often we look for solutions when we're feeling powerless, and we're like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. And we're trying to fix things, but because we're looking for them in a state of powerlessness or a state of anxiety or a state of concern, the solutions that we're going to find aren't really going to be as effective, and they're probably really not going to give us the outcomes we really want, long-term outcomes. So by creating this ritual of returning to the feminine force, we're actually creating a field around us and our daughters that does foster intuitive solutions. And those sorts of solutions are really the best solutions because they're natural, they're long-lasting, they're permanent, and they're completely in sync and aligned with both the mother and the daughter to create more harmony and more connection.
Yeah. Amazing.
See, Scott wants to join now. Scott's in.
Yeah, this is what it's about, right? It's about the connection between one another. The deeper the connection, the better the relationship, the more opportunities we can grow through. You know, like it's something that I'm really passionate about, is that we don't have failures, we don't have mistakes. They're opportunities to grow. If we see
the emerging
like
process. And that this is very much about that. It's like looking at our relationship with our daughters as an emerging process. Whereas before, I think, I don't know, I never actually even ever looked at it like that. I always looked at it like, oh my God, this is something to fix, or this is a problem, or this is whatever it is. But being able to sit into that, this is okay right now. You know, like as you were saying, Caroline, it's like right here and right now, we're in this moment. And for some reason, we are in this process. So we trust that this part of the process is going to get us to where we need to go. And that is generally always what happens when we can let go and get into the process and look at things as an emerging process. And it's so much better to look at it as an emerging process, because then you can as soon as you start to think, hang on a minute, this is an opportunity, it's almost like your mind lets go of all the bullshit it's telling you about how bad this situation is and how you have to fight it and how you have to control it. It's like almost you switch your mind into another paradigm as soon as you suggest to it, hang on a minute, this is an opportunity. We're in a process here. And that's probably one of the most powerful keys I think I've ever learned personally in any relationship.
Yeah, and I think seeing life as a process, you know, always kind of learning or kind of realizing that it's not just my relationship, my daughter, but it's what life is trying to create through us, through that relationship. You know, life is always like, we're part of life, like it's a whole system, you know, it's completely connected, interdependent and interconnected. So like we're all part of that. You know, when you kind of open yourself up to that, then life starts to kind of, that true intelligence starts to kind of arise. And that's what's creative, you know, it's something new in each moment, you know, that if you're present with it, it's going to show you something new through your intuition. And that's like where the intuition comes in. So like it comes in through the heart and it goes up. So it's like, it's just being really curious about that, you know, and bringing wonder back in, you know, like it's wonderful, you know, to be present with somebody and to see what will emerge from that. And sometimes it's not that and also like the idea of beauty as can be in a difficult situation, a difficult time. Like even my mother, like she's extremely sick at the moment. And I was saying to Lisa like that, my mind, you know, before, you know, a couple of weeks ago, I had to go down and kind of face into that she was really kind of very critically ill. And I was kind of saying to myself, oh my God, how am I going to face this? You know, and I was kind of going into grief mode. And then I just let that be. And when I went and I just lay down with her and like, we actually held hands and we had tears and stuff because we knew what was happening, you know, but it was so unbelievably beautiful. Like in that moment, that was just part of life. It's a cycle of life, you know, and if you just enter into it, like it's the most beautiful thing, you know, because it's just, we're part of it and it's just emergent and like it's passing over of like, I'll become the elder in the family, you know, and she had to do that too, you know, and we have to take responsibility for those kind of roles that we have in the world at this time in ourselves, you know, so it's kind of a growing up of ourselves as well, that's kind of, you know, so that's the kind of pain and the grief a lot of the time. And I think sometimes it's just like that part of us, like with our daughters or our sons or whatever, that it's kind of helping us grow. You know, that little girl or that little boy that just didn't really get that validation when they needed it, when they were young, that it's always kind of needs to be healed as such, and that can be healed through that relationship. And it also heals the relationship with the parent as well. You know, the generational line, you know, is all connected. So, you know, when you do the work for yourself, you're actually releasing your father, your mother, as well as, you know, your son or your daughter, you know. So it's so vitally important, you know, to just enter into the process. Yeah.
You know, I'm sitting here smiling a lot, and I'm listening and loving the opportunity, right? And it's the one thing I keep hearing is you're stepping into the opportunity. And that's the thing that I absolutely adore about this line there with your mum. You've got everything coming up for you, but just you stepped into it and from the heart, which is love. No answers, just to be present. And I just, that is leading by example. I just love that.
Yeah.
And
what was lovely about that, Scott, was actually, it was so natural, because like I was lying on the bed, my mum couldn't get out of bed or anything, and it was our Christmas visit. But the kids were just running around the house, and they had the door open into the bedroom, and they could see that happening. You know what I mean? They knew she wasn't well. I had my pajamas on, and I got into the bed with her. And, you know, they just knew. And it was just so natural. They came in and out, and like they were so full of life and happiness, and, you know, they were just full of the essence of life itself. And, you know, it was just so beautiful for them to kind of, they gave me heart, because like they're just so new to the world, you know. And it's like that beautiful, it's just the relationships, you know, that are kind of, they were feeding me, like to say, you know, you have to be as good as your mum, that as good as strong as she was for them, you know. So that, you know, it's just gorgeous when you enter into it. There's such beauty in grief even, you know, because it's just, you're really feeling how much you love people, you know. And like that, the process of the transition, it's a transitional time for a mother when her children are starting to kind of pull away from her, you know. So that's a kind of a grieving process too. So like from 8 to like 16, there's a kind of a transition period for a child, you know, for boys and girls, you know. It's a stage where, you know, that really close connection that you've had kind of with your child, which is kind of like, I suppose, when they're in the room, like they're within you as such, and they're so protected. And then when they come out, it takes you, you know, you still have that very intimate relationship with them, but then they're starting to grow, and it's getting to the stage where they have to start to go out into the world, and they want to start to break away from you. But it's really difficult for moms to let go of that as well. So that can kind of be like being, you know, torn apart as such inside, because, and I think, you know, but when you understand that's a process, a natural process as well, and if you emerge, if you kind of can sit and be present with that as well, it can be really beautiful. Because it's like, you know, I would say it's like a chrysalis, you know, because the children, like, they go into this kind of chrysalis and they don't really know their own identity, and they don't, you know, they're trying to work it out for themselves, and eventually, like, you know, they'll turn into this butterfly that they can, you know, become, you know, like blossom into themselves. And it's just if you can understand that, you know, that's a process, Lisa, isn't it? You know.
Yeah, it's so true, because I actually feel that often, and this is probably from my experience and the mums that I've worked with, what I've observed is that the biggest sort of challenges arise because you've got the child changing into this teenager and needing to learn how to become emotionally independent. But because the parent is not changing at the same time, and also, you know, like encouraging the emotional independence, because the parent is staying within that emotional dynamic, the child trying to create emotional independence and not being able to is actually what creates a conflict, I believe. So if the parent also starts to grow and look at the emotional dynamic with this maturing child, and they're both growing together, and they see it as an emerging process for them both. Like, often parents are like, oh yeah, my child's becoming a teenager, and, you know, all the stuff that's supposed to bring. if we look at it like, actually, we are both changing. And if I also own the fact that I now have to change, I have to change because my daughter is changing. And if I don't change and I want to stay the same in that old dynamic, I'm going to create more conflict. And that's, and I know quite a few mums I've worked with are like, oh, wow, it's actually me that's creating this conflict because I don't want to let them go. Mm-hmm. And understanding that the more they step into their feminine power, the more the balance returns to the shared journey that they're on. And so I think you're absolutely right, Caroline. It's like, rather than, like our society tells us all this stupid shit. I mean, really, sorry, I'm just going to say it as it is. Stupid shit. Like, your teenage daughters, oh yeah, like just drop them off at some planet and pick them up in 3 years' time and they'll be fine. Or, your kids are going to disconnect. And like we even like toddlers are terrible twos. Like, I haven't experienced that. Like with my younger daughter, being emotionally present means that those things actually don't happen. And why would I want to own that anyway? Why would I want if someone tells me my teenager is going to be a shit for the next 3 years, why would I want to go, yep, okay, fine, I'll accept that? Like, it's not true. It doesn't have to be like that. So I think and it can be so beautiful because you're both learning, you're both growing. Like you said, Caroline, it's like we can be in this incredible, and sometimes it's hard. Like sometimes she's in a space or I'm in a space and, and I don't know what to do. Or she's just like, I really don't want to be around you today, Mum, either. But the thing is, we're doing it together, right? We're doing it together and we're connected and we're talking and we're supporting each other. And it's just, that is so much more powerful. It's so much more a powerful state of being for both of you, I think, as she grows.
Yeah, look, I can foresee that. Like, I mean, I don't have a daughter, I have a son. He's 10 years old, and independence for me is a big thing. And at the moment, with the opportunity called COVID, he wants to spend more time with me. He's very connected to me at the moment, and in a way, I'm his best mate. And I love that. But it also saddens me a bit that that's the opportunity, because I want him to be socialising with others. The other day, he took off for the first time on his own. I was so proud of him. And I felt that urge of, where is he? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
So there's that growth opportunity. But for me, it's about allowing him to explore and then creating the opportunity for him to come back to me and open that up. And it's, in order for that to happen, I have to not put any of my preconceived ideas about how he should be upon him. Listen, learn, give an opportunity to grow and take on the challenge of me understanding his point of view. But in order for me to even think like that, I have to own my story. I've had to own my part in my journey, and to see you, Caroline, with your mum and the kids, and dancing around and enjoying that. Look, that was a beautiful picture, because there was joy. Far too often we see death these days as something that is we have to turn away from. We don't sit with the dead anymore. We don't appreciate. We're not involved in the process at all, and I think that's a shame, because life is a journey. Grief is the last gift of love you can receive. You can only ever grieve someone as much as you've loved them. So, and just to sidestep a little bit, how is your mum?
She's a little bit better. Well, she had to have a spinal surgery a couple of last week, actually. So, unfortunately, she was very lucky to get that, because she was going to be paralyzed otherwise. So she was lucky that she got it, and she was a candidate for it. So it just means that she's a little bit more time at home. She won't have to. She won't have to go to a hospice as soon. Yeah. So just thankful for that. You're always thankful for those things. Those small blessings. Yeah. So yeah, she's back home, and she's coming back to herself. Yeah. So thanks very much for asking.
No, thank you for sharing. It's sharing the full journey of life that gives us what we are and what we do. So thank you for that. So can I ask a question? Authentic connection between mother and daughter. I I think it's something that most people perhaps wouldn't completely understand, because especially in today's society where it's so busy, the expectations of a mum are huge. You got to work, you got to income, got to do so many different things.
I'd like to share on that, and I'll hand it over to you, Carol, because I'm sure you've got some insights too on that. In fact, I think we talked about this earlier, Carolyn and I, about how it's such a paradox when we think about as a mum, and even I used to be a teacher, and it was like you just were given these things to do all the time. It was just like another thing. And some of the things to do might have been amazing, but there was no way you could fit another thing on your pile of list, the things that you had to do. And that sense of overwhelm is very much because we're not standing in our feminine power. We're not in our center. And what I've discovered is the more I'm in my center, being authentic, which to me just means being who I really am, being completely comfortable in my own skin and doing what I need to do for me, and not abandoning myself for expectations or obligations or to keep people happy or to be liked or to be accepted. But being completely free to be in myself and be who I am and express that however it comes out is what authenticity is to me. And I believe that it really, we get taught a lot of words in this society, and a lot of them we think we know, but they're words that they're an experience. So while we might have a head knowledge of things, like, for example, living from heart, right? You can have a head knowledge of the concept, but until you actually have the experience of living in that state of being, we really don't get it, And there's a lot, even love, so our concept of love is very different from the love that expresses freely through us towards others without any expectation or judgments or requirements. So I think the concept of authenticity, really, it's not something we have to try and get. It actually happens for us when we just do the things that we know to do every day to step back into our feminine force, into our own center. Those things, our authenticity, our intuition, they're like the gifts that we get for being determined to love ourselves enough to come back into our personal power. And we don't have to try to make those things happen, which is a freaking relief for any mum out there, right? Like for me, that was a big relief. Like, I don't have to make this tree grow. All I have to do is plant the tree in the right spot, water it, make sure that there's sunlight, give it a bit of fertilizer, and the creative force will grow this tree and ripen the fruit. And that is the biggest relief, I reckon.
Yeah. Beautiful. That's gorgeous. And actually, just what I hear you say there is, what I've experienced as well is that, kind of swapping out the word expectation for connection. So, when you bring expectation of anyone into your home, that's kind of like an alien force that should be not in the home environment, because it's not sustainable for, true relationship. And I think that for me, it's just about seeing your children, like seeing them in their soul, seeing them in the depth of themselves. And when you do that, I think it gives them so much power, to go out into the world, because when you can kind of get the feeling or the kind of, it's intuitive kind of knowing that there's certain, it's like the diamond design that we're talking about. If you can look into somebody and have the capacity to be able to see what's unique about them and to speak to that, that bypasses absolutely everything else. That is really has the power, because I find with Lauren, when she comes to me with things from, the outside, and I'll just kind of say, oh, well, I guess, you probably would see it like this, because, you've got, just, you speak your truth. You're not scared. You're full of courage. You will always pull down any system that's not right. So, yeah, I support her in that. In whenever she even school, she's always trying to break down kind of systems, things that are unjust, you know. Like she goes to an all-girls Catholic school, and like,
Oh, look out.
yeah, it's really funny because I sent her to an Educate Together primary school because I wanted to, that was kind of, I just felt it was more in line with, you know, what I see, even though I was raised Catholic, whatever. But so, you know, religion was kind of is separate. You can do it after school, and then it just meant that all the kind of religions were brought together to be educated together. But then you can have the option of then having kind of religion as a kind of extra school activity as such, you know. So she was kind of brought in, she was kind of birthed into that. But then when we came to secondary school, we had to choose, you know, and I suppose there was, I felt I went with the all-girl Catholic school, which was a lot different, and I knew it was going to be really challenging for her because she wasn't raised in that mentality. She didn't, like, they in Educate Together, they call their teachers by their first name. There's no hierarchy, you know. It's like even the teachers, they don't, it's like you're trying to be with the students, on par with the students, you know. Like it's not authoritarianism, you know. It's trying to kind of, it's kind of, I suppose, a new philosophy of education. But then it was going back into the old, you know. But what I felt was I did feel that the kind of holding that safe space for her during her early teens was going to be really important, because I know she, like myself, had a very rebellious streak. So when I was a teenager, yeah, I was always trying to break down the social structures as well. But it can go into kind of like, it can go a bit off the rails if you don't keep that on check. So I kind of recognized that in her, and I thought to myself, she's going to need a kind of structure around her to kind of hold her in that until she kind of finds her true voice. So it has worked actually, because I'm noticing now, like, she's thinking about going into law. So I'm thinking that's much better, you know, kind of, you know, like get that passion and that drive and everything, but put it into something, you know, that's going to make a change in the world, you know, and, you know, that you can bring your voice, but use your intelligence with it as well, and not just to kind of be causing kind of more problems in the world as such, you know. So I think that was kind of an interesting dynamic for her to be in, because it actually was probably more enriching for her, because you can see all the different sides of what education can be about, you know. But also it's so fantastic with community, like with I suppose Irish people have, you know, gone and educated the whole world, you know, with these schools. So like they're getting something right, you know. It mightn't be perfect, but there is something there, and kind of holding them in that kind of space until they find their voice, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, schooling's an opportunity, like, and especially nowadays for mums and daughters, fathers and sons. We're in a new dawn of education. We're in a new dawn of emotional, for lack of better words, an emotional produce, because we don't actually fully understand what the repercussions of this opportunity called COVID is. So we're having all these new ways of having to learn and deal with things. And the most important thing, bar none, is connection, having an opportunity to talk, looking at the schooling and understanding what we want within the parameters of our values right now. What do we need for our kids? How do we do it? How do we stand strong? So I think right now, the opportunity that you're both bringing forward is something pretty amazing, because for me, and I'm just going to give you my personal opinion. No, this is not a campfire opinion. This is my personal opinion. So, I look at young women and I'm worried about them. I'm worried about the Instagram life. I'm worried about the TikTok life. I'm worried about this persona of instant gratification, but more importantly, perfection in the way you look. Our imperfections are what make us beautiful. They're the things that, if we learn to accept and understand and grow through, you get that authentic smile, or that heartfelt feeling and connection. And everything I've done inside the Campfire Project in every conversation has led back to connection between people. That's the thing that gives us the big thing. And I'm concerned that if we don't look at the way we parent and the way in which our schooling is done, we're going to really lose a generation.
Yeah.
Because they will not know themselves.
Yeah, it's so true, actually, because actually, you know, Scott, I really experienced that with Lauren because, you know, there was a point, I'd say, when she was 13, and I suppose I could see like she's really fiery, you know, and she has that voice. And if you were to, like, I suppose at that time, it was kind of within the family, you know, it was kind of like she was the eldest. So when she starts speaking her truth and everything, it wasn't going down too well, let's say. But I was kind of, I recognized myself in her. So I knew like she needed freedom, she needed space, she needed to be allowed to do that. If not, she'd just turn rebellious and she would just go into drinking drugs and sex and whatever. So like, it's very, very, it's refined mothering you have to do and parenting, you know, because you have to, like, it's fantastic that she has that passion, but if you deny it of her, of them, it'll turn sour, you know, and it'll turn toxic, you know, and that there's too many avenues for them to go down now. You know, it's not, you know, you have to create that safe space at home for them to be able to come back home to know that no matter what happens, and when we all make mistakes every day, you know, we're always evolving and trying to learn and, you know, learn from our mistakes, but that it's okay. Like, that's okay. Everything is okay, no matter what. Just come home, you know.
I think that's, you know, that just made me think about something I said before when I was saying that we can't just learn more information now. And I think in the past, what parents have done is they've gone to experts, and experts have said, you've got to do this, 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 and this, and that, and that, and, you know, and then your kid will be okay. Now we're seeing these results where kids aren't okay. And we've applied all of this, you know, all this stuff that we've been taught, all this information, and we've applied these ideas to our kids, and it's not necessarily right for our kids. You know, like, somebody could assure you that this works all the time, but in your kid's case, it might not work, like you were saying, Carolyn. And so for me, it's my capacity to sit in my center and allow the intuitive solutions to come forth, because that is going to be what she needs right now. Like what you've said, you know, it's like my daughter's gone through a totally different journey with education and totally against the way I was raised. But for me, it was such an intuitive thing, and it was so powerful that I couldn't ignore it. And that making those choices has actually helped her to start to blossom, and I can already see the changes in her as a result. I never would have done that if I'd held on to what I should be doing and how I should be doing it, and what I was taught to do by my parents and what I've been told to do by other experts. You know, even the thought itself to change what was happening with her it just dropped in. It was like an intuition. So, you know, like, it's that space, that's the most powerful space, because it's unique. It's unique to us, and it's unique to our daughters. It's not a one size fits all.
Yeah.
You know? And that's what we're talking. You can't do one size fits all when you've got a kid, man. You just can't.
Exactly. And we're all different. We're all unique, and we have that. So that's why you have to celebrate that. You know, like this kind of carbon copy thing of just, you know, modeling, you know, like everybody to be the same. Like, it just denies life, you know. It's just denying the truth of actually the beauty of life, the magic of life, you know. And in that, it's the emergent process, like in this moment, what's happening, not to deny what's happening, just to be there with it. And it's really, like, what I'd like to say as well, especially in the Campfire Project, about the relationship of the mum and daughter, and how that can kind of help the relationship with the father and the daughter, because I think that's a really key relationship, actually. That is really, like, really, really key to, you know, your relationship with, as a woman, right? My relationship with my father was so strong, and I don't think I would be who I am today only for him.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I totally hear that, because the mother's relationship with the daughter fosters that connection, right? Or it cannot foster. I mean, I've also seen mums that it's like the dynamic of it's us against him, and the more the mum can sit in her center, the more she can be inclusive and draw that, really enrich that beautiful relationship. And that was something that I didn't have. Carolyn was a father that was actually present for me. And I recognized that my acting out as a teenager was a symptom of not having a father, like not feeling this strength behind me that I could feel safe when I went out into the world, because I always knew there was this strength, there was this masculine energy behind me that loved me, that cared for me, that had my back. And not having that meant I took a lot of risks as a teenager, So I think that relationship, and it's so beautiful, like dads and daughters, like it's very, very special.
But sometimes it gets blocked by the mum because they have that connection with their daughter, and they don't let the dad in, They don't let, and he's left kind of isolated on his own, and he's not able to express what he's naturally supposed to be like, he's like the strength behind, and the supporting and guiding and kind of putting the structures in place, and like providing for as well, and like I think that helps men's mental health, as well, because I know my dad, like he had his own issues, whatever, but we just saw each other, and no matter what, he knew that no matter what happened, like I always loved him no matter what, and it's vice versa, like, and it was just this acceptance of that relationship was just so powerful, for both of us. And he had his own mental health issues, but I always felt like he kind of nearly kept going for me, that kind of way. He found strength from the relationship I had with him as well, so it just all feeds into each other, and like we all need somebody to do it for, even if you don't want to do it for yourself, to keep going, So it's so powerful to kind of really go into those connections. And the mom and the daughter, when the mom kind of can get clear on that, then it kind of frees her then to have her own kind of, I suppose it opens up, like I know Lauren and Alan have had their differences when she was turning 13 like that, and I suppose it showed up in his relationship with his own father, because he was authoritarianism. He didn't have a great relationship with him when he was a teenager, and that was kind of turning up. But they've worked through it, and they're actually going to Paris together next week, actually, for 5 days, just the two of them.
Wow.
And I was like, I'm just so happy about that. I'm just like, that is just absolutely amazing. Imagine to have that experience, just the two of them, because it'll just be just so fantastic for her to have that, in her mind, when she goes forward in life, no matter what happens, So it's that, like, given the space, and I don't feel in any way insecure about that, or, I just think it's an amazing thing. So it all, like, for me, kind of trying to do the work myself has allowed that to happen,
Yeah.
I love that, because that's the one thing that I keep hearing as I'm listening. It's the work that you do on you that benefits all the other relationships in your life. Like I know for myself, it's the work I've done on me has greatly strengthened the relationship with my son. But it's so I've got a question to ask off cuff that's could go anywhere. I'm going to ask it because I feel safe to ask it. So there's men. I'm really proud of men at the moment. We love you, women. We love you. We don't understand you, and that's okay. We're learning to listen. We're learning to work harder at things, and I'm very proud of men for that. I am finding that those men who really step into fatherhood and really step into the opportunities of really knowing their kids and working on themselves, that's very difficult for the mother to see. Whether that's an innate thing of nurturing inside her that she feels like she's losing because the male is very dominant with the children. What would you say to a woman that has that scenario going on where she sees her husband connecting like no tomorrow and feels like she's got the weight of the world on her for everything, and she's not having that connection? What would you say to her, Lisa?
Yeah, I can totally relate to that woman. You know, like many years ago, I could relate to that woman. You know, I think that it's very easy for us to get stuck in, there's not enough love. There's not enough love for me. I'm missing out. Why can't I get that? You know, and especially when it comes to a daughter. In fact, I can share a story where this did actually happen to me. My daughter was about 3, my youngest daughter, and her dad just doted on her. And I don't know what happened. He must have been spending all this time with her and doing all this stuff with her. And I remember I was actually activated. And I started to feel resentful towards my daughter because it was like, why the hell is he spending all that time with her? Like, I haven't seen him for ages. He doesn't come, he's not speaking to me. He's just going straight to her. And I remember that I was absolutely activated. And I sat in that for a bit and I realized it was actually the little girl in me that had missed out on the father that was activated, not the adult me. And when I started to realize that actually it was that part of myself, I actually thought to myself, what if I treated my daughter like the younger me? So I started to almost project my younger self onto her, and I started to treat her like I wanted to be treated. So when my partner spent all this time with her, I was just like, oh, that is so good. That feels so good, you know, and at the same time, reminding myself that I'm an adult and I can actually ask for what I want now. Like, I'm not a child anymore. I can totally walk up to this man and say, hey, how about we do this when you finish there? But, you know, like, it's so funny when you're being activated and you're in your little girl, like, you just don't even think about the fact that you have a voice. And as an adult, you can actually use it. So I started to use my voice, but it was that awareness that it wasn't actually me that was necessarily being aggravated by the relationship between my partner and my daughter. It was the unhealed part of me. It was the little girl part of me that really missed her own father, that didn't feel loved enough and that didn't feel safe and that didn't feel supported. And when I can acknowledge that and, you know, allow myself to give love to that little part of me and to pretend that my daughter was my inner child so that I was giving to her what I really missed, it just changed the dynamic. I really didn't have to change anything. I didn't have to do anything different. It was just that understanding of what was really going on in that moment.
I like that, asking the question, what's going on for me here?
Yeah.
Because go back a little bit to where Caroline was in the bedroom with her mum and the kids are all playing, the body language around that, the projection of how you feel and felt is just phenomenal. And I just see the joy in that, where that was felt by everybody. Now come into another situation where you're sitting there looking at your daughter in pain. Everybody feels that pain. You don't have to say a word, it's inside the room. That's the gift you can give if you choose to work on it and choose joy and find the love. We choose not to, and that pain is gifted. They're both gifts. You're going to give one or the other, and you can make that choice. And that's, I hope people can feel that right now, because that's the power of this. We're talking before about opportunities, right? This is the opportunity of now. This is the opportunity of COVID. This is the opportunity of the pain that we're currently in as a society, and we're questioning things and we're opening up all these old wounds. This is the opportunity right now to own our stories so that we stop the pain moving forward.
Yeah.
And our pain doesn't just come verbally, it comes physically, emotionally, projected through what we're feeling. So that is the number one thing I hope that mums reach out to both of you to talk, to watch what you're doing, to listen to what you're doing, so that they can feel as good as they possibly can, so that they can project that about, and then we can have those closer relationships. Because the moment with social media and all, everything that's going on for people, the advertising, I feel like we're just bombarded with garbage. What is it we really need? We go into ourselves, we find the inner beauty, and people have heard about it, people have talked about it, but it's a big part of us that if we can find, that's going to heal us enough that we make the choices we need to live a valued life. And I know for myself, in my own situation with my father, I owned my story before I took that on. I took that on, and I haven't had to heal it. I had to accept and listen and learn. I've taken that lesson through to my son. Don't have to heal him. I have to accept, learn, and grow. And that's what I feel the power of Diamond Mother Ring is about. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. And I mean, where do you want to hang out? Like you got a choice. You can hang out in the place that feels crappy and it feels, and I ask myself this too, if I ever wake up in a mood, I'm like, do I really want to hang out in this all day? Do I really want to sit in this? And like, it's like, I don't. And so I do what I need to do to shift that state. It's like, how free do you want to be? Like they're good questions to ask yourself. Do I really want to carry this energy when I'm pissed off at my partner? It's me that's carrying that energy.
Yeah.
Do I really want to carry this around for the rest of the day? Like, not me.
Yeah, I call that radical responsibility. You have to sit with yourself, like you have to connect to yourself first. And it's funny, Scott, what you were saying about, what would you say to a mother who's seeing a beautiful relationship between the father and the kids, and she's activated by that? I would say, maybe she has an over-reliance on the connection with her children, and I think that's going to cause issues because, where is our own joy? Where, like, it's somebody, like, I know for myself, trying to find, like, what do I enjoy independent of the family as well, like, is really important. Like, what is it that I actually enjoy in myself, my own time? Like, what do I love to do? What do I, so it's use it as an opportunity to look into that, and to try to say, like, why am I not enjoying my life? Why is it just attached to this kind of love that I'm getting from my children, even, or the love that I'm getting from my husband or anyone around me? Can I sit with myself and love myself, and why can't I? If I'm sitting there and I'm feeling those feelings that are coming up, they're coming up for a reason. They're coming up to be processed and to be heard, something that hasn't been listened to and digested before. And that's why, like, we're talking about, like, it's not just like mental, emotional, it's physical, because, like, I had irritable bowel syndrome, I had all the, I had migraines and everything, until I started to kind of try to unpack what was happening. Like, my body was telling me, like, Caroline, you're not, like, you suppress your emotions, you're not, like, owning your own, you haven't digested emotional experiences from your past, and they're still present within you now. So you need to kind of start to sit with yourself and work through that. And once I did that, it is, my health has improved. It's not just my relationship, but it's your health, it's your body. And I know, Scott, you're so into fitness and everything. It's so important, and not just even like, again, that's going into a deeper understanding of like not just fitness to look good, you know, to be attractive, you know, like it's how you feel in your own body, you know, the connection with your own body, and to be actually present in your own body is the work that woman needs to start doing. Yeah.
Yeah, because I love that, because it's interesting, and thanks you for mentioning the training side of things, because I don't train for events. I train for life, because I just want to be the best version of me, so then I can have as many connections as I can have and grow from that. And to be the best version of me, I have conversations like this. I'm just so grateful for that, you know, because I see things and I listen and I learn, and I can grab this and I can take that and I can implement this, and I can fail or make a mistake. Some people might call it that. And I think it's an opportunity to grow. Every time I step into something that's uncomfortable, I grow. And the people around me grow with me, because I have stepped into that, because I don't carry the emotional weight of the situation any further. And I think that's the key to this. And that's why I think I'm clear in what I'm hearing, is that the importance of mothers becoming the best version of themselves gives that to their daughters in a new way of understanding. And I just, yeah.
That's it.
So
that's it in a nutshell.
yeah, that's why I'm listening with intent, because I'm so proud of you both for being amazing women in my life. But to gift this to other people, I think is a real opportunity. And I really hope people have the courage and step forward and step into this. Because
we're excited. Yeah. Thank you, Scott. And we were joking the other day that we're working 24/7 on this, because, you know, Carolyn works while I'm asleep and I work while she's asleep. But for the joy, for the pure joy and fun that we're having in bringing this program and actually being able to deliver an option, an alternative for mums, is so joyful. And all of our creativity is involved in this. So and it's beautiful. It's just this incredible process that we're in, that we feel so grateful for, you know, we just feel so grateful to be the two people that had the opportunity to be sharing this information, you know. Really, it's just so beautiful.
Yeah, it's emergent design, because it's like we're kind of there toiling away, and I have an idea, she has an idea, we're kind of bouncing off each other, and we're bringing out the best in each other. So I don't know, it's funny, because we just met each other, Scott, and it was just, you know, out of the blue kind of thing, and we just sat, myself and Lisa, and it wasn't even what was said. It was like we both got this burning in our hearts, you know, and it was kind of like experience, wasn't it, Lisa? You know, and all of a sudden we started launching into the program.
Yes, we did.
Actually, Lisa, I don't even know who you are.
That's right.
Who are you? You know, it's like
there was no getting to know you. We already knew each other, and we knew exactly
I knew
what we had
her
to do.
on the deepest of level of her of her person. You know, it just kind of, it was like as if I recognized her, and I just knew her more than I probably knew everybody else I had ever met, you know, that kind of way. It was like that recognition, you know, just that kind of.
It was,
and then
it was amazing, wasn't it? Because we just started doing it. We really didn't even talk. We just went, this is what we, and it was almost like we both knew what we had to do as soon as we met, and it was just this. It was quite. I mean, you know, along the way we mentioned a partner's name or a child's name, and I go, oh, she's got a daughter. Oh, that's good. Oh, no, I knew that to start with, but you know what I mean, just little things that. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's such a beautiful process.
But it's coming with a force. It's coming with a feminine force, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's coming strong, and it's coming in really creative, and it's really and it's really important, because it feels like that. But actually, I feel it's like our responsibility to bring it. It's our honor to bring it, but it's also our responsibility to bring it. So you're kind of trying to. You know, it's like we're both quite tired. It's like we're in the labor ward, you know, we're trying to birth it, you know, but it is it's hard work, because you're kind of, all your faculties are trying to be, you know, are on fire all the time, because you're trying to work it out, what's trying to come through between us, and you're trying to not have it kind of adulterated by any kind of sense of ourselves, you know. So
Yeah.
it's kind of trying to keep it pure and clean and pristine like a diamond.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I agree.
I'm listening, right? And the joy coming out of you both talking about it. Like, if you listen to the indigenous cultures, especially through the Americas, it's the time of the sixth sun, divine feminine. So I'm going to ask you both, help us love you. Us men want to love you. Help us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's a beautiful thing when we come from love, you know, and love is not this fancy thing. It's just something you do for one another. You know, it's an action that is gifted to you that makes you feel warm. I'm just so proud of you both. So so on that, I'm going to put up all the connections afterwards. I'll do a quick post and I'll put them up underneath this. I encourage everybody to reach out to Caroline and Lisa. Reach out, okay? Because they're great women that are helping other women be better mums. And if we all learn to be better ourselves, we all benefit, every single one of us, because you're the most important project you'll work on. So
It's true.
So any final words, Lisa?
Well, I just want to ask, how free do you want to be? I totally think it's time that mothers took back their power and that we showed our daughters how to take back their power so that we can all be free and really enjoy our lives and our relationship. Da 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 da. With music.
Lovely. Yeah, and I think it is actually just what Scott said at the end. You know, it's the divine feminine coming through. You know, and I think when the divine feminine comes, it allows for the divine masculine to rise as well. So this is the co-creation, and this is kind of the dawning of a new day. So it's very exciting, and it's happening. And it's not that we are trying to force anybody into anything, but we're just here to support you in the process. So we'd love to have your company, and we'd be more than honored, and it's our purpose here to do that. So I suppose if you resonate with us, you know, we'd love to have you in on the 3-week program. You can register on the links that Scott's so kindly sharing, and we'd really be honored to guide you along that process. And just the 3 weeks, we're going to unfold, you know, what the program is going to be entailed in, you know, the process, and it'll be starting at the end of February. So we'd love to just invite you in to have a little look and to get to know us a little bit, and to kind of learn to trust us and see if you connect with us and what we have to say. That would be really wonderful.
Thank you, Carol. It's beautiful.
That does, you know. Thank you both very much, from my heart to yours. Thank you for being here. Yeah.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you so much, Scott. I really appreciate you.
Yeah.
Giving us this space to talk about it.
Brilliant. Well,
Thank you.
I'm very proud to be sitting here with you. So, campers, thank you very much for being with us tonight. We're back. We're up and about, and this year's going to be more challenges for us all. We're going to be able to sit here and challenge anything. I'm happy to talk about anything. There's no subject we can't talk about. It's just the way in which we talk about it. Come from love and respect. We can talk about anything. If you've got something you want to talk about, share it with me. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Caroline.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Scott. Bye.
See you next week. Bye. Ciao.